Less restricted, less restricted, less constant. Oh my God. Yeah, maybe so. I have $1,000 to spend.
For home. And then 360 with Speedy. That was July. And then
Have they pushed this time into it?
Rebecca, why would keep pushing?
I don't have any. I have nothing to it. I have no calls to tell. On such a reliable basis. All comes out the same problem. So I don't have any calls. What's that? Royce, I'm glad we got to the bottom of that, Jason. It's totally you can.
I should have listened to the student for grade. Listen to the years before. sorry.
I mean, that's.
She was subsequently fired for her questions for the which is not that far.
I mean, it's not till the afternoon. I mean, it's not till the afternoon. Well, that's number one. Well, that's number one. What she knows, so it's back into the Bob, what she knows, so it's back into the Bob Costa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell the, Wells owns this. Tell the, Wells owns this. How old were you? This is like 1979, right? And John, you know, less so. He took the inspiration. Well done. How many years? How many years? Many years. Exactly.
Was that you were in interior? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So this is HW.
It was like really just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Same shade too. Natalie got the perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
Whoever's just gonna change their password. Whoever's just gonna change their password. First I thought it was pretty good. Not at all by way of one-upmanship. Might be so right. Serious activity. Serious activity. And it turned out these
I know, it was cool. I know, it was cool.
Oh, hey.
She's starting at 2:30.
Well, schedule.
Oh. Just seems
So that's what every chicken bite. So that's what every chicken bite. We are calling it the sun.
The reason everyone's well, was it for you?
I'm Natalie. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Filling in for the White House. I had so I have no idea. So I have no idea.
Because it's right, yeah.
Nice to officially.
Yeah, it's hot as hot.
And I have the program here.
It was like sound. It was like sound of sloshing water. They get. Get ready for number. Get ready for number. During her you're taking. It's just
Everything's done.
oh, you're my friend. The white hairs. But I can't get it right, so I didn't notice it. I can't get it right, so I didn't notice it. Can't get it right. My phone's on, but no,
Yeah, no, it's really.
Let me just say, let me just say, I'm grateful we don't take the road this way. Very small. Very small. Yeah, sure. I mean, I like my arrow. That's a little.
They have missed your windows, you couldn't tell.
How long do you get? Should I be out there? Should I be out there?
Or if it's far.
Low-key White House rebuttal. Decision or decision or Well, they say like a stupid theory. Why laugh for some reason?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Come on. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. No, it's 2:46. Not evening. Okay, so we could. Those who have tragically lost their lives. Those who have tragically lost their lives. The president and his team continue to monitor the storm, and yesterday the president approved an emergency declaration. Is in addition to emergency declaration requests the president has already approved from the governors of Florida, South Carolina, and Georgia. The region to assist as needed. FEMA's National Response Coordination Center here in Washington and their regional response federal efforts. Additionally, personnel from the DoD, HHS, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and U.S. Coast Guards have deployed in its path to remain cautious, heed the warnings of local officials, and visit ready.gov, again, ready. Recorded a sit-down interview with Bob Costa for CBS Sunday Morning. The full interview will air this Sunday, August 11th. The tragic Maui wildfires and those who lost their lives. Highlight the progress that has been made to date and ensure the long-term recovery of survivors and impacted communities. And tomorrow afternoon, the president will welcome the in the days ahead. Finally, this is great. This is great news. Sung Min, I know this is your we wanted to congratulate you. This is coming from the press team, all of us. We wanted to congratulate you and wish you well. This is exciting.
Two topics, if I may.
I like to throw you guys off from time to time. Go ahead.
First one on the economy. As you know, so I was wondering if the White House thought the sell-off on Monday was just a.
So, as you know, we're very mindful. When it comes to the stock market. What I will say is. This, I ticked off the data as you have heard this. I ticked off the data as you have heard me say before. Unemployment is still low at 4.3%, created nearly 16 million. Wages are up, they are rising. Wages are up, they are rising faster than the prices, for 14 months in a row. That's important. Water with consumers resilient and business investment up more than 5%, and expectations are for growth to remain solid. Sure that we continue to build on those successes for middle class families, working families, and that is incredibly. This is something that the president was able to do. Via the Inflation Reduction Act, where we are now able to negotiate. Medicare is able to negotiate. $9 billion in manufacturing and clean energy. Those are the things that we want to focus on. Taking on price gouging. Families, and they want to give tax cuts to billionaires, and corporations. That is not our focus. That's not what we agree on, and you have seen what we. Keeping the president and the vice president updated.
And a follow on the prisoner swap last week. There were some exiled political activists. Not a priority for the West. So can you give us any insight as to why none of the hundreds of the Belarusian political prisoners were not included in the exchange?
Let me just say, Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor, he said it here. He said it multiple times during interviews over the weekend. These are incredibly difficult. Human life, right? That values American citizens. And he has said from the beginning of this administration, and he has shown. As some folks might say, you've seen the receipts in delivering on that, and the work continues. Wrongfully detained Americans, that is continues to be a priority for this administration, and I. This is not easy. We know what families are going through. We know how they're feeling. We know that they're missing their loved ones. And
Does the president feel like it's time for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates to sort of boost the economy?
As you know, we believe that. With that, we continue to do that. The Federal Reserve will make their own monetary policy decision when they.
Persuading Iran not to retaliate against Israel?
Look, I'm not going to speak for what Iran will or will not do. In responding publicly, they've been very public about that. What we're going to do, and that's why we've shared the readouts that the president. Continue to have those conversations with Middle East. Our Middle East partners, Middle East leaders, and urge de-escalation. That's what we want to.
Yeah, thanks.
I know last time.
Yeah, thanks.
I know last time.
Yeah. Did President Biden watch last night's rally with Kamala Harris debuting her?
Anything to share on if the president watched or anything to share on if the president watched or not? Look, I shared yesterday that the president spoke to Governor Vice President Kamala Harris before the announcement was made, and so we've been very clear. And I think he put out a statement, and not I think he did put out. Full right because this I don't want to there's a Hatch Act situation, but what I will say is just reiterate what the president said, is that he enlisted to serve his country at the age of 17, served in the Army National Guard. Teacher, served in Congress, obviously now he's governor. This is American lives. He grew up on a farm in the Midwest, and so his values is something that the president read his statement. You'll see exactly how the president feels about the vice president picking Governor Walz.
Has he got any concerns that that could sort of?
So look, I can say this is that we are going to, obviously we've seen the reporting. Objectives. We, as far as the specifics on that, I would refer you to the Ukrainians to speak about their own military operations. That as they are defending themselves against Russia's aggression. We think that is obviously important to do as we talk about democracy. To protect themselves from these attacks, but as for the specific operation, we're going to read to see what their objective is.
Thank you, Corinne. You mentioned that you mentioned that you've seen the reports. I'm curious. I mean, was the White House made aware prior to?
No.
Okay. Is there? Did it lead to further escalation?
I'm just not going to get into hypotheticals. Let us do our outreach to the Ukrainian military. I just don't have anything. They are in a region of Russia, and they're in that region attacking Ukraine, and so we can't forget that. But our policy certainly to support Ukraine as they continue to defend themselves.
One pivot, if I may,
Sure.
the campaign trail. Today, Senator J.D. Vance has accused Governor. I'm curious. I mean, how is he reacting to? These statements?
So look, any specific attacks or comments, I would have to refer you to the campaign. Joey's question about Governor Walz, one who enlisted at 17 years old, to serve his country. He was part of the Army National Guard for 24 years. This is someone who in the Midwest, and so I think his bio speaks for itself. Who he is speaks for himself. His record speaks for itself.
What are those final steps, and how is the president involved in the final stages?
So I'm going to be very and we feel like we are, closer, as you just stated in your question. That was part of a readout from yesterday. Our focus is going to Middle East leaders on Middle East leaders on de-escalation and the tensions there in the region. Obviously, bringing in these ceasefire. And his team are going to continue to work. His team are going to continue to work around the clock to get that deal done. I'm not going to negotiate. I'm not going to get to specifics from here. Has been engaged these past couple of days. With Middle East leaders. His team is continuing to engage as well with these diplomatic conversations. Is getting the ceasefire deal and this hostage deal to a conclusion. That's going to be our focus.
Secondly, if I may, Secretary Austin. A surprise to President Biden was he involved?
So this decision was made by Secretary for anything more to share about about that step, the step that Secretary Austin took. I will say this: the Secretary. Important and complicated issues that the Secretary Austin, the Department of Defense, has to deal with. This is something that of this president, especially with active military prosecutions, and so I would really have to leave it there. This is a decision.
Last night, Governor Walz said during the rally in Philadelphia, he praised the Vice President's leadership, but he also thanked her in particular for bringing back that assessment that Vice President Harris has returned joy.
So here's what I will say. Again, it's a campaign activity, but I'll say this more broadly. Picking Kamala Harris for his running mate, who obviously is now the vice president, and he did so because critical partner for the last 3.5 years, and obviously now in this transition period, if you will. These past what we've all watched and experienced these past couple of weeks is exactly what he was hoping for. That's what he wanted to see, right? He talked about what he wanted to see, right? He talked about unity. He wanted to bring the party together. So I will leave it there.
Has the president to target Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna specifically? Is he aware of that?
So I just when I came out, I saw.
And finally, you mentioned the CBS interview. That the president did today. Is there anything else you can share about how he's spending his days since he didn't have public events yesterday?
This past couple days as it relates to de-escalating the tension in the Middle East, and he has been meeting. More to share. Certainly, we will share. Share that with all of you as far as his schedule. We will do that.
Thank you. Just to follow up on Steve's question. Is coming. So despite the fact that the White House is being engaged in diplomatic efforts, do you believe at this stage that actually an attack by Iran
Hezbollah, they will speak for them. Hezbollah, they will speak for themselves. Obviously, Iran has been very public about this. What we will continue to do is readouts that we've put out this week, with the head of states leaders on the Middle East, and that's what NSC and hypotheticals from here, but our focus is very, very clear. Our focus is de-escalating tensions in the Middle East. That's what we want to continue to do.
In documented cases of rape against Palestinian prisoners in Israeli detention, and it's been reported by Israelis.
Reports of rape, torture, and abuse are deeply, deeply concerning, and we have been clear and consistent with Israel. And must ensure accountability for any abuses or violations. Reiterate that we support detainees by IDF soldiers. It is essential that the rule of law and due process prevail. That is what we want to see.
Lobbies, unseating two African Americans, congressmen and women, what is Jamal Bowman or now Cori Bush. Its values to other countries, when you see this nexus between money and lobbying, influencing politics.
So I've not been more broadly, just as we do speak to when there is a primary election, we congratulate with future congressional members, and that's what I can speak to, and that's where I'll stay. The President has always said that he wants to do interviews, speak directly to the American people, one way. And so that is something that he wanted to do. A sit-down interview. I'm not going to get into the specifics. You guys will see. They will promote. Obviously, CBS will promote. To work on issues that they care about, whether it's the economy, whether it's about freedom and democracy, whether it's about making sure that. And I think stay tuned. You all will see what his message is and what the interview was all about. But we're hoping, obviously.
Using his executive authority to achieve anything left on his to-do list.
And appreciate the question. I'm not going to get ahead of the actions that he might take on any important issue that matters to the American people. What I can say is he wants to build on the historic record that he has.
Last night's rally.
They definitely spoke, as we mentioned yesterday from here. The Vice President called. They had a conversation. They speak regularly. They are partners in this, as you know, and have a close relationship. I just don't have anything.
Overseas by Iranian proxies.
Don't have any conversations to speak of, but from the President. What I can say, just to give you all a little bit of. During the attack, two personnel have been returned to duty for further treatment and remain in stable condition. Obviously, we certainly will let you know.
I asked that because.
We certainly will let you know.
I ask that because you're saying that the president is very busy every single day, obviously in the Oval Office and within the we expect to see the president out. We expect to see the president out and about.
Just to get back to, let's just get back to the service members for a second. Sure. Obviously, to get better, to get that treatment that they, to get better, to get that treatment that they need. As the president, he's also the commander-in-chief, as you know, and he takes that incredibly seriously. And to go back to that, to go back to that. As it relates to the president's schedule, public schedule, because I think that's what you're really asking me about, what his public schedule will look like. We have events, public events to share. We have events, public events to share and travel to share. As we normally do, we will do just that. Go ahead, Josh. No, go ahead, Josh. Work that through.
Has he spoken?
Work that through.
Has he spoken with the vice president about how he can best support her? In other words,
you can expect as the president. You can expect as the president is going to be as supportive as he can to the vice president. I got to be my activity. And they talk regularly, they talk frequently, so I'm probably just going to decision on behalf of this country. On behalf of this country, he thought it was the right decision to make in this moment, and he's very proud of that decision. 2020 to be his running mate. It was 2020 to be his running mate. It was the right decision at that time, and it was the right decision in moving. He's incredibly proud of her. He believes she has the experience, the judgment, the temperament to do the job.
as a more minor point on different subject. Is there any update you can share about the proposed purchase of U.S. steel by Nippon Steel, Japanese company?
I know.
What a wow!
CFIUS
8
review.
Months, something like that. What a wow!
CFIUS
8
review.
Months, something like that.
CFIUS
Yeah.
review. My favorite acronym. Independent, and they're going to make their decision. Independent, and they're going to make their decision when they're
The
ready.
administration's position, you're waiting on that?
It's under review. That's.
To perhaps pursue different priorities now that he's not running for re-election. Have you all come up with a list of what that's going to look like?
To share on that, what I can say is that, as you know, and you've heard me talk about this, the president was able to CHIPS and Science Act, which is done in bipartisan way, obviously, bipartisan infrastructure legislation, the American Rescue Plan, those to build an economy, rebuild an economy, an economy that's the strongest, a leading economy that's the strongest in the world, really deal with to be done. He wants to see, for example, when we think about the infrastructure law, we want to make sure that those projects gets moved. Stuff that he's been able to get done, as it relates to the next 5 months. Bring cost, building homes that are more things to speak to in the upcoming, hopefully, weeks. But there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about for sure, and how.
that out? Is that going to be
Don't
some
have
kind of
anything.
that out? Is that going to be
Don't
some
have
kind
anything. Don't have anything to share at this time. I don't.
I had two questions. One is about not to attend a memorial service in Nagasaki because Israel was not invited. Policy from the White House, or whether that's sort of a one-off, or if there's anything that the administration is.
I appreciate the question. I wasn't. I want to go back and see exactly. See exactly what occurred, and I know you're. Go back. I don't want to talk about a change of policy or anything like that.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in a recent interview said, entirely, I suppose, because of a lack of, quote, stamina to serve for another 4 years. Between the Speaker and the President, I know that they're, as you said, yesterday, very close.
Yeah, I mean, look, he respects, again, his good friend, Speaker Pelosi, former Speaker. Not because of that. It wasn't because of lack of stamina. It was, as I just stated multiple times, unity, bringing the country together. That's what the president, that's how he has basically moved forward with his career this past 50 plus years, and that was his decision. In the letter, in statements that you have seen, from him, and he's been very, very clear from his perspective as to why he wanted to. Another 4 years. That's why he decided to run for 4 years. That's why he decided to run for re-election. But I would let the speaker speak for herself. I'm speaking for the president and what.
A meeting on Monday with advocates on the topics of establishing a U.S. Commission on Reparations and U.S. Commission on. Also separately, I spoke to one of those advocates who expressed that many of them are just really frustrated with the lack of progress and urgency that. The death of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and the defeats of Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, and Barbara Lee will also not be in Congress.
From here, and that's something that we do. So not going to do that. But we do believe that Congress has the power to study. That is our belief, and continuing and seeing reparations and the continuing impact, obviously, of slavery. Black Americans, for the Black community, throughout the 3.5 years of his administration, as I talk about, communities that are normally left behind, and so we want to make sure that our commitment continues to be the advancement to see that. We want to see, for example, economy that's built from the bottom up, middle out, and we have seen some historic wealth gains for the. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue anything that we're moving forward on. We want to make sure that we believe, and we'll continue to say this, is something for Congress to do.
Taiwan independence punishment that encourages people to report Taiwan independent supporters.
Our policy has not changed. It will continue to be that, the one China. Can't speak to this new development. That you change. We will continue to be consistent from here. Okay.
Great. Last Thursday. As you know, it's faced lots of lawsuits. Many governors say they're not going to even follow it. So there's that angle of it. But biological men to compete directly against women in sports. Does the president share that concern?
So let me just say, deserve the right to feel safe in school. That's what the rule is all about: strengthening and restoring vital protections that the previous against women and girls has been a priority, not just for this president as president, but certainly during ongoing work to end campus sexual assault. That's what we want to see, and I cannot speak.
Regulations, the new Title IX rewrite will allow men, biological men, into women's locker rooms.
Look,
Does the president have any concerns about this? Is he going to pull it? Is he going to pull the Title IX?
It's an ongoing litigation through the DOJ. I'm just not going to say beyond.
A speech last night after the results came in, and she said to AIPAC, who spent heavily against her, "I'm coming to tear your kingdom down." Does the president have an opinion on that statement?
Attempt of the last president about lowering rhetoric, right? Lowering political rhetoric, and the importance of doing that. And incredibly unhelpful. Look, we're going to continue to condemn any type. And so it is important to be mindful. In what we say and how we say it. But we cannot have this type of inflammatory. Not now, not ever.
On the VP decision, you said a couple times that he spoke to the vice president about her decision.
And he said this himself that he had talked to her. I think like over a week ago when he was asked about. She certainly welcomed, the vice president welcomed his advice. I just don't have anything beyond that, but let's not forget on important different issues that matter to the American people. So not just this pick, but I know I gotta wrap up. Go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Corinne. Can you just clarify an answer that you gave a little bit earlier?
Yeah.
Give a heads up to the president, the commander in chief.
This is a decision that he made. He made on his own.
I understand. Can I just? Give a heads up to the commander in chief about his decision.
This decision was made by the secretary. This was his decision to make. His decision to make. This is not his decision to make. This is not something that we are involved in. The president, what I can say is the president has the full confidence of the secretary.
Another question that just was out there on social media, and maybe you can reply to it. The former president has made this suggestion. Presidential nominee. Put that out on social. Presidential nominee. Put that out on social media. Does the president? I see your reaction. That's why I want to ask you this. Does the president?
Proud of his decision. He's proud of his decision. He's proud of his decision. Again, we had nothing to do with the 9/11 plea deal reversal. We had. The president has full confidence in. The president has full confidence in the secretary. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow.